If you're watching this video, either you already have the chameleon kit and you're realizing that this is not good for your chameleon, you're trying to figure out what changes you need to make, or you're in the research stage and you're figuring out what to get or what not to get for your pet chameleon. Today, I'm gonna be going over all the different changes that you need to make in order to make the Zoom In Chameleon Kit suitable for your pet chameleon. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First things first, if you are looking for an amazing chameleon kit, I actually have two that I offer in partnership with Pangea Reptile. We have the basic chameleon kit, which comes with all the essentials, enclosure, lights, supplements, you name it, inside that enclosure. And then we have the advanced kit, which has all the things that the basic covers, as well as an automatic misting system, plant LED bar, and fogger. So if you're in the market for a chameleon kit, those are great options, and I will have those linked down in the description box. Now, if you have purchased the Zoom In Chameleon Kit, now they do have two different ones. They have like their deluxe one and then their kind of more basic one. We're gonna be talking exclusively just on the basic kit. This is probably the #1 most purchased chameleon kit on the market right now, and unfortunately it is nicknamed the Death Kit. Way too often in the hobby, we chameleon keepers see new keepers purchasing this kit thinking it's everything that they need, and odds are that's what you were told and that's what it's marketed as. Everything that you need for your chameleon all bundled into one little package, for like $100, $120. Like, that sounds amazing. However, there are so many things that are wrong with this kit, and I'm so sorry that you're gonna have to rebuy new things. But we really do need to make sure that you make these changes in order to make sure that your chameleon is able to thrive and live a long, happy, healthy life. So I'm gonna be walking through all the different things that I would change in the right order. Now, a lot of people ask me, how long can my chameleon stay in this kit or in this smaller enclosure? And that really depends on what age chameleon you purchased. If you purchase a chameleon that's 6 months or older, then I would get them out of that small enclosure ASAP. Now, if you purchase a baby chameleon, you have a little bit more wiggle room, and you probably have a couple weeks, even maybe a month or so, before you would need to move that chameleon out of that enclosure, just because of it being too small for their body size. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, super simple, super easy, is remove the reptile carpet that comes with the kit. It's going to be that green fuzzy stuff right at the bottom. Take it out. You'll be very tempted to want to put something else in there, substrate, bark, leave the carpet in there because you're dealing with all this water. Just take it out. Instead, have potted live plants in there, which will help catch the water, which brings me to the second change that you can make that will hopefully be relatively easy to do. And that's going to be adding way more plants and way more branches. The chameleon kit comes with one little bendy branch and one little plastic plant. That's it. That's not going to work for a chameleon. If you're looking at your enclosure and you can see your chameleon immediately, then it's not working for them. They need tons of places to hide, and the golden rule is any empty space is unused space. So instead of having one branch, you're going to need like 20 branches. Instead of one plant, you're going to need like 10 plants. Now, I do have entire videos on where you can get these branches, where you can get these plants, how to attach them in the enclosure, all that good stuff. But the gist of it is you can get natural branches from outside, wash them, and you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get live plants. So the cost for adding in more branches and plants is really, really low in the grand scheme of chameleon keeping, so that's something I would prioritize right away. The next thing you can do, now that you've got that carpet out of there and you've added in way more plants and branches, which is great, is to raise the enclosure off of the ground. And that's just assuming you have it on the floor somewhere, which is not something we want to do. The reason for this is because chameleons are arboreal, which means they are tree climbers, which means they feel safest up high off of the ground. So you could use something like a little nightstand or a countertop or a table. I personally use garage shelves. I do have these linked in my shopping list and in my Amazon store, and those raised enclosures, you can see they're up above me, and that also allows for drainage. So remember, we're talking about all that water and how you deal with all of it. So you can just drill 3 little holes in the PVC floor with just a little drill, and then raise your enclosure off of the ground with something that has the slits in it, like the garage shelves, and then you can put a bucket underneath and help catch the water that way. Then you don't even have to worry about any sort of substrate or carpet or anything like that. Now, once you get into chameleon keeping, you could look at doing a bioactive enclosure, which is when you can have naturalistic soil, isopods, drainage layer, leaf litter, all that good stuff down at the bottom, and that's something that would be amazing to work towards. But when you're just getting started, we try and keep it as simple as possible. So now that we have the enclosure up off the ground, we've got lots of plants and branches for our chameleon, we need to talk about temperature and humidity. So you should be able to have some accurate way of measuring the temperature and humidity inside the enclosure. So you'll want a thermometer and a hygrometer. The thermometer is going to measure the temperature and the hygrometer is going to measure the humidity or the moisture inside the enclosure. Now, again, I have entire videos just on heat and just on watering and humidity, so please take advantage and watch those. But buying a thermometer and a hygrometer is only a couple of dollars. Again, you can get them off Amazon. You don't have to get some fancy Reptile branded one. I just use a thermal temperature gun and then a digital hygrometer, $10, nothing crazy. Now, once you have the tools to measure those things, then you may need to make adjustments to your basking branch. It's very tempting to want to attach a little bendy vine to the ceiling of the top screen. Don't do that. Chameleons can and will burn themselves. So we want a basking temperature of around 80-85 degrees Fahrenheit, closer to 80 for females, closer to 85 for males, and factor in about how tall your chameleon is and make sure they won't burn themselves. Then your humidity is going to vary from species to species, so please do some research on what your species requires. The way that we can control the humidity is by misting the enclosure. So yes, you could splurge and get an automatic misting system. My personal favorite is the Mist King, but those are running like $180 right now. Like, that's more than the kit that you just bought. So I totally get if that's not something you want to get right away. It is not required. Instead, you could just get a spray bottle, $1 from the Dollar Tree. Although now that I think about it, I feel like nothing's actually $1 from the Dollar Tree these days. But you get what I'm saying. You can just get a little spray bottle and just spray your chameleon 2 to 4 minutes, 30 minutes before their lights turn on, and then 30 minutes after the lights, you'll spray them again for 2 to 4 minutes. So you're standing there going for 2 to 4 minutes until that enclosure is nicely coated and all the little water droplets, so then the humidity is where it needs to be and your chameleon can drink off the leaves. Okay, so now that we've got temperature and humidity and everything like that, next we're gonna walk into supplements. So the kit should come with 2 supplements, your calcium without vitamin D3 and then a little packet sample of the Reptivite. So we wanna make sure that you're using the correct supplements in the correct schedule. So every single time you feed your chameleon, you're gonna be using the calcium without vitamin D3 on all your bugs. Got it? Then 2 times a month, if you have a veiled or a panther chameleon, you're gonna use your Reptivite with D3 on the bugs for that feeding. You won't use your calcium that time, you'll use just your multivitamin. Now if you have a Jackson's chameleon, then you'll just use that once a month and you're good to go. Supplements can get a little tricky and confusing to understand. I totally get that. So please check out my video on supplements or neptunethechameleon.com. I do have an entire page just on supplements that helps break it down, even has a little calendar in there for you so you can follow along with your supplements. The last thing that you can do that is relatively cheap, low cost, that'll help increase the care for your chameleon is to gut load your bugs before you feed them to your chameleons. So gut loading is the process of feeding your bugs fresh fruits and vegetables so that their bodies are full of all those micronutrients that will be passed off to your chameleon. So this would be like feeding your crickets things like mango, apple, carrots, collard greens, mustard greens, sweet potato, and those are things that are super cheap that you can get at the grocery store, or maybe you already have them in your refrigerator, or maybe your bearded dragon is already eating them. That's great. Start feeding those things to the bugs before you feed them to your chameleon. Now we're going to get into the section of things that are going to cost a significant amount of money. Now, I get it. You just bought this chameleon kit for over $100 and you have the chameleon and then you're buying these thermometers and everything else. But what I'm going to recommend for you is to get a new UVB bulb. The one that comes with the chameleon kit is called a compact UVB bulb. So it comes in that little dual fixture. One of those is for heat and one of those is for UVB. That heat bulb is totally great. Use it, love it, great. However, that UVB bulb, garbage. Unfortunately, that compact UVB bulb is only going to penetrate a couple of inches into the enclosure. Now, you've got this 30-inch tall enclosure, your UVB's here, and your chameleon's down here. How are they going to get the UVB that they need? The reality is that they're not. So those compact UVBs are not recommended for chameleons. Instead, you're going to want to get a long, linear UVB bulb. Now, there's 2 kinds. There's a T5 and a T8. Most stores carry the T8. Now, the T8 is better than the compact, but the T5 is even better than the T8, and those are available online. And I have those linked in my shopping list, and I have discounts, so you don't have to pay full price. I'm trying to help you out. So you want that linear T5. You're gonna have to buy the fixture and the bulb. So I would get the 24-inch fixture, because when we talk about enclosure sizes, that's the size that you're going to want long term. So I would just go ahead and get the size that you're going to need, in the future. So get the 24-inch long fixture, and then you're going to need a 22-inch bulb. Now, there's different types of T5s. There's the Reptile brand and the Arcadia brand. Both are great, okay? Like they're both fabulous. There's not a huge difference between the two. If you get the Reptile, then you're gonna want the T5 5.0 UVB bulb. And if you have the Arcadia one, then you want the T5 6%. Those are identical bulbs. They're just different branding, slightly different numbers, and those are gonna be the 24 watt because that's the 24 inches. Okay, so you need the fixture and the bulb, and this is the number one thing of something that you're going to have to purchase that's gonna be a little more pricey than just buying fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, this T5 5.0 and 6% is meant for a 48-inch tall enclosure. The enclosure that comes with the Chameleon kit that we're talking about is 30 inches. That's already a significant difference in height. So what you can do temporarily until you can get a larger enclosure is raise that UVB bulb up above the enclosure. So then it's simulating the correct gradient that your Chameleon is going to need. And just a reminder that all lights should be off at night, so your UVB and heat bulb will be on for 12 hours and then you'll turn them off for 12 hours. Okay, so that's the first kind of bigger purchase that you're gonna need to do. The second bigger purchase is getting a new enclosure. So I've mentioned that the kit comes with a 30-inch tall enclosure. The correct size for a Veiled Panther and Jackson's Chameleon is 48 inches. That's gonna be 24 inches wide, 48 inches tall, which is massive in comparison to the 16 inches by 30 inch tiny little one that comes with the kit. And unfortunately, that's not gonna work for your Chameleon. Maybe if they're a baby, but as they get older, they will need that larger enclosure. So if you are in the place financially to be able to get that from the beginning, absolutely do it. There's no benefit to having your baby Chameleon in a smaller enclosure. In fact, putting them in the larger enclosure gets them to have the correct gradients and of course, lots of space to climb on. So what I would recommend is the Zoomed XL Reptile Breeze. It is the most affordable enclosure that is out there. And again, that's 24 inches by 48 inches tall, and that thing is fabulous. There are, of course, other enclosures that you could get. You could look at getting a hybrid or a glass enclosure, but for what we're aiming here right now, let's just keep it simple with a 48-inch screen enclosure. So once you get that large screen enclosure, you're gonna also want to keep that up off the ground. And when your Chameleon is like 4 to 5 months old, that would be the appropriate time at the minimum or maximum. That's the latest, that's the oldest Chameleon I would have before I would move them into the larger enclosure. Now, you're probably gonna need even more plants and even more branches because now you're gonna have even more space inside of that enclosure. Remember, any empty space is unused space, so deck it out, top to bottom, plants and branches going everywhere, your Chameleon's gonna love it. So once you have that, then you'd be able to put your UVB bulb directly on top of the screen because now you're working with that full 48 inches. So you'll have your T5 UVB bulb, you'll have your heat up there, you could get your automatic misting system, all that good stuff. And another thing that you could consider doing is automating your different gadgets. So that'd be like an outlet timer or a smart plug to plug your lights into so they will automatically turn on and off. Those are only a couple bucks. And then you could look at getting your automatic misting system. And once you do that, then you're in a really, really, really good spot when it comes to taking care of your Chameleon. I hope this has been helpful and that you feel comfortable and confident in the next steps that you need to take in order to make this kit work for your Chameleon. And again, I apologize that someone told you the incorrect information or you thought that that was going to work for your Chameleon. The reality is it's not, but you're in good hands. I have hundreds of videos that teach you all about enclosure size, attaching the plants and branches, UVB, supplements, gut loading, what bugs to feed, all that good stuff. Please check those out. And if you ever want to chat one-on-one directly with me, I do offer video calls and you can book those through my website, so feel free to check that out. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave any questions or comments down below. Feel free to subscribe so when I post a new video. You can follow Neptune and all my chameleons at social media at Neptune the Chameleon, and please check out my website, neptunethechameleon.com. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! And unfortunately, if you've purchased this Chameleon, odds are this kit. I think I'm just saying Chameleon a lot, like more than my other videos.